So I'm delighted to welcome MonicaS.Lam, who is ACM Fellow and a professor at Stanford. Monica did her undergrad at UBC. She's moving on to CMU for a PhD. She has worked in pretty much every good and meaningful area inside computer science.
No, that's not possible.
Operating systems, programming languages, a bunch of other stuff. She's done 3 startups over the course of her career. She's done a processor startup, she's done a virtualization, privacy computing startup, and now very recently a very exciting new mobile and privacy startup. And she's going to talk to us about what's happening in terms of mobility and privacy computing. She's warned me that she has about 700 slides, and so she may push your questions to the end if you are threatening to derail her talk too much.
Thank you, Andy. No, you can ask me questions. It's just that I will ask you less questions than what I was thinking of doing. Well, thank you for inviting me back. I just love to come back to my alma mater. It's great, and I see still David's here, and likes to meet up with people here. Yes. So I want to tell you a project that I've been working on since 2008. This was at the beginning of the mobile computing world. I mean, the iPhone just came out. And I've waited 25 years for this. 25 years ago at that point was when the PCs came out, okay? And within a few number of years, we have the Wintel monopoly. All right. It is not the best OS, and it's not the best processor, and we are stuck with it. And at that time, I was a graduate student, so I felt like I couldn't be blamed for that. But this time, the phone is coming. We know that this is another huge round, and we are asking ourselves, who will be the next Wintel monopoly? And I want to have a piece of this action. So we wrote to the government, to NSF, and asked them to fund a project which we call Programmable Open Mobile Internet 2020. Now, isn't that an interesting number? Now we are 2014, okay, 6 years later. And what we said to the government is that this is a new internet, and it's a new thing because with the mobile devices, we are talking about billions of phones. I mean, billions of people all having phones. And all the largest companies are locking people into their proprietary technologies. And so we said, let's put some money in universities' research and try to open it up. And that's what happened, and that was 2008. And then we have multiple projects. One of them is the software-defined networks, and that worked pretty well. My colleague Nick McEwen and his team is changing hardware networking with the software-defined networks, and now we are talking about social networking. But it has some similar characteristics. And the problem that we are trying to solve is what I would call the billion people privacy problem. You know what that billion people privacy problem is? Facebook. How many people here are not on Facebook? Whoa, this is the computer science department. Okay, and so of course we all know about Facebook. They're billion strong, billion plus strong, and they have a proprietary social networks. How many people here have read the EULA, the End User License Agreement? Great. It basically says they own your data as well as you own your data too. And by the way, they reserve the right to change that EULA anytime. So it doesn't really matter whether you read it or not because they can keep changing it. So that's one big problem. And not only do they own people's data and provide this kind of sharing, at over 1 billion people, we are starting to wonder if it's going to develop into a monopoly. And you know what happens with a monopoly, right? I mean, you can wonder if people should worry about privacy, but everybody should worry about monopolies. When you have a monopoly, you don't have open competition, and then innovation suffers and people suffer. So that's an issue. But actually, it was not Facebook that worries me the most. It was their app platform that worries me the most. It's the Facebook Connect. Okay, what does that mean? It means that for example, Zynga or any apps that are built on top of the Facebook Connect, it uses the Facebook graph, and Facebook demands 30% of their revenues. So when Zynga started paying them, they saw a drop of 90% of their profit. It has to go to Facebook. So the question is that fair? Is that the right number? Well, we don't know, but I can tell you that if it is a monopoly, who gets to set those numbers? You don't really have a choice. You don't have somewhere else to go. So this is a big concern. The second thing is all those like buttons, the Facebook like buttons. It's on all those web pages. And that means that everything that you like also goes through Facebook. So these are not properties that they put up. It's everybody else's web pages, including the Stanford web pages and so forth. But they are monitoring and seeing what everybody is doing. Anything social goes through Facebook, and that's just very, very disconcerting. And then, of course, the next round with mobile, it's all about messaging. How many people here know about WhatsApp? How many of you use WhatsApp? Right? So I wrote these slides maybe 4 years ago, by the way. We know that messaging is going to be it's major. I mean, we didn't have social networks when Facebook showed up, but we always have had open messaging. And now there is a threat that the messages are also being owned by proprietary companies. So Facebook bought WhatsApp for $19 billion, right? Just about a month ago. And they promised that, WhatsApp says we are not going to monetize your data. How many of you believe that? So we have seen Facebook change their ULIs over and over again. And right after the announcement, there was a company called Telegram, and they saw 8 million downloads over one weekend. They were a secure messaging system from Russia. And people would rather download that. So there is some issue here, and the problem we are facing here is a combination of privacy with monopoly. It doesn't mean that we have a big brother situation. So this is really hard to disrupt, okay? Because we're talking about billions of people on this network. How do you change the status quo? And the good news is that we have Moore's law, and that means that we keep having new computer generations, and this is the new one. It's mobile. When you have something new, you have a chance, and this is a chance that we have to jump on. And this is why I was so excited when it came in 2008. We knew we have a lot to do, and we have to do it soon. And what we have is a computer pendulum. Okay, we have the mainframes. Everything is centralized. Only the largest companies can afford it. Everybody is happy when we have the workstations and PCs. We have now autonomy. We have cycles. And then, of course, these big computers and laptops are too heavy. We're not lugging it everywhere. Why don't we park things in the cloud? The cloud services came up. We have the ability to host 1 billion people's personal data. It's great. But the good news is that the mobile gives us a chance to swing back. We have these personal servers 24/7. It's just next to my bed. It can even wake me up at night if it needs to. These are servers that under my own control, it can see all my data. This is the time where we have a little bit of more autonomy. It is more available than the cloud because when I'm on the plane, I still have gigabytes of information at my fingertip. So mobile is our savior in a sense, and this is why the title of this talk is, can the mobile disrupt the social, the social scene? And I think we do. So here is the basic story. The phone is much bigger. The social on the phone is much bigger than Facebook. Let me give you a simple example. Take the Stanford campus. We have about 12,000 students, 50, and every one of them pretty much is on Facebook. But they are not my friends, all right? They will not friend me. I do not want to friend them, and they do not want to friend me. But we have a student and teacher relationship. That means we do things socially. We go to basketball games together, or maybe we go to conferences together. We have reunions, we have parties, and I want to share pictures. So what does that mean? What it means is that when you look at a personal network, it's the people that you friend, regardless of whether they're on Facebook is independent of whether they're in my network or not. And your phone has access to all your network, not just the people on Facebook, but on other social networks, LinkedIn, Google+. But my entire Stanford directory is on my phone. I have access to the 50,000 people on campus. I don't have to friend them anymore. I have a Stanford address that I can write to them because I'm a Stanford member. In other words, we have a lot of natural social networks that we already belong to, and they're accessible on the phone. So it is a much bigger set of people. Like people here, everybody here has a phone. I should be able to connect with you directly. I do not need to figure out what your Facebook ID is before we can share. So this is why the phone is big, and this is the reason why we could potentially disrupt this. And after trying 3 different architectures, we started in 2008. Every year we have a new idea, and then we discover what's wrong with it. 3 years later, we came up with this architecture, which takes the best of all the ideas that we have built, and we figured out how we can potentially build an alternative social network. Today, the phones are treated like dumb clients, and we just attach to these huge, humongous networks. And these are canned networks. They define what we can do with our friends. There is such a thing as friends and friends of friends, and if you do this, then it will spread this way. Why do they have to dictate what I want to do with my friends? I have these phones. I should be able to connect with you and you and you independently. That's a group, that's a network, and I do whatever I wish with those people. I do not need to belong to some network who control what I do, all right? So that's the basic idea. And the bottom line is that the phones need to be connected to each other but not by using TCP IP addresses, okay? I don't even know my TCP IP address. Of course, I don't know yours. Because it is mobile, you don't even know, and it is not interesting. And what is missing here is the ability to connect to your phone based on who you are. That's why we have the identity-based. In the middle here, what we have created is an identity-based group messaging system. What it means is that each person here with their phone can certify to the messaging system who you are. I may be a Facebook account, it could be a Facebook account, a phone number, and email addresses, all your different email addresses. You take a phone and you say, I am who I am. I am Lam at stanford.edu. It sends me an email, I produce that email, that means I have that identity. I claim that identity for my device. Not that different from your email addresses. Once I identify this, then when I want to send a message to a group, the message goes to the server, all right? I need a server because, first of all, the phones are not always online, and also if I want to write it to like 100 people here, I don't want to send it from my phone to 100 different phones. So the message goes to the server. The server uses standard notification systems, Google or Apple. It notifies the devices that there are messages waiting for them, and they come and retrieve it from the server. And the server keeps the data for 2 weeks because we just want to hold it, make it possible for you to invite new people to join that chat. So the most important thing is that this messaging service does not monetize people's data. What we believe in is that we have to have a universal messaging system. I don't have to join a network and give up my data in order to connect. The nature of the phones is that I should be able to connect with anybody that has a data plan or have Wi-Fi. I do not need to share and give up the data to somebody else in order to share. That's the basic principle. So people would say to me is like, you join Facebook. Facebook is a free service, and therefore you should be happy, with this free service, and they own your data. It's only fair. And my answer is that I don't know about you. I pay about $100 a month for this phone. Do not tell me that this is free. You pay $100, I pay $100. For me to be able to share data with you, I have to go through a third party that owns my data. Who's not doing the right job? It's the telcos, okay? The telcos are stuck with the TCP IP addressing, and I cannot connect with you. And this is the work that the telcos should be doing. They didn't, so we're doing it, okay? So the idea here is like, this is a messaging system for the phones to connect. No questions asked, do whatever you want. And then on top of that, we expose this as APIs to the apps. So for example, suppose 4 phones here want to play a Scrabble game. So you can run a little Scrabble game on each of these 4 phones. How does a Scrabble game work? I mean, I'm just putting a word down, row 3, column 4, the word hello, right? So the messages just go through this universal messaging system. You do not even need a server to host a multi-party game. This is the first time we've seen this. Right? Why? Right? I mean, normally you think about a Scrabble game company, they would have to put up the server, they have to make it scalable in case they blow up and they have so many simultaneous Scrabble games going on. We don't need this if you can just build on top of the phones, go through the messaging system. And then the next problem is but these phones, I mean, I deliver the data, it is now on your phone, you can lose your phone very easily. So the next thing here is that we let everybody decide where they keep their data. So right now, if you look at the software that we have already connected to Box, Dropbox, Flickr, and Baidu Cloud. It's an open API, anybody can plug their server into it. And now we have distributed the data. Eventually, there will be home servers. The reason is that I'm going to take these terabytes worth of movies, and most of the time I'm consuming them at home, and they should be just parked at home for the most part. And I think that the home servers will be there in maybe 5 years' time. So in the meantime, what we have done is to turn this social network inside out. Okay? Instead of everybody putting the data into the middle, now the data are at the peripheral under the control of the individuals. And the users don't have to think where you park your data. So for example, if I take a video here and I'd like to back it up on my Box account, and I send the movie to you, and when you click, the movie is streaming out of my Box account. It's a very simple, unified interfaces because you don't even need to know where the data sits. Okay, so that's the basic architecture. So what it means now, with that architecture, we have a chance to undo all this damage of all these years. Instead of the network eating up the platform and messaging, we have to hold on to messaging and make it open. If we lose this battle, oh my God, I don't know what to do. We have to hold on to messaging. Right now, there's a messaging war going on between WhatsApp, WeChat, Line, Kakao Talk, Google Talk. They're all different proprietary networks. We have to have an open one. If you can keep an open messaging network, then you can build an open app platform on top of it, like that Scrabble game I show you, and have the data be backed up anywhere. Then now you can share socially with each other, and you have an open social network. Okay? So interesting from a research point, what is interesting from a research point of view is that we started trying to replace Facebook. We couldn't. We tried. It was too hard. And then we tried to create an app platform. It couldn't. We finally settled on the messaging. This was before we knew anything about WhatsApp, by the way. Okay? So we realized that this is the strategy that we can zip back out. And of course, by the time we are done with all this, everybody knows about messaging, and here is an interesting battle that we are raging here. So what I have shown you is the big picture, okay? So I'm just curious, how many people here believe that we have it's a problem worth fighting for? Okay, all right. So that's the big picture. So we did a lot of this work. We think that's the architecture. So what I'm going to do next is we actually started a company based on the research. We want to make it real. We want to take it to the users. And even though we're talking about privacy and monopoly, the end users don't care. This is why I asked you guys. Because if I'm outside the computer science department, most of them would say, I don't care about monopolies and privacy and closed versus open. And so we have to give them innovation. We have to give them a better user experience than privacy. This is why we spend all the time on HCI. Our research is a combination of HCI plus system, because there were plenty of distributed systems research that were just ignored all these years because they were not usable. So the innovation that we have done here is mobile collaboration. Okay? It is not just me broadcasting myself here, broadcasting myself there. We are actually collaborating, and we believe that this is the innovation that allows us to take over, to create a new ecosystem. And then, so that's the innovation, and then the last part, which is hard, is the go-to-market. How do you actually take it and give it to people? So let's talk about making it real. So we did this work for 4 years. We started the company 2012, September. One thing that is interesting is that in June last year, we joined the StartX incubator program. It's a very cool incubator program. I don't have the time to talk about it. If you're interested, I can talk to you more about it. We joined that incubation, and we have been working with, we talked to all kinds of people. And the good news is that we found an amazing partner. We've discovered that the phone manufacturers, the Android manufacturers, have an appetite for the work that we are doing. So we have, our first partner has announced at CES this year in January, and this is ASUS. ASUS is famous for making tablets, but this is the first time that they build phones. Their phone is called Zen Phone, and they have integrated our platform called Omelette on it, and that was announced at CES, and that was January this year. And about 3 weeks ago, the Omelette as an app and our company called Mobi Social launched at South by Southwest. It was a big success because at South by Southwest, everybody is talking about privacy. Assange and Snowden showed up virtually, and everybody was thinking about privacy. And when you talk about privacy at South by, they will think about our app. So we were very excited because 2008, when we were working on this problem, nobody cared about privacy. But now it becomes something that the people are aware, so we have a bit of a chance. And so we launched, and there are now 2 routes that we are taking. So Stanford has adopted Omelette in a sense that Stanford has an app called iStanford, and it points to Omelette. They're recommending that for students. And also, next week on Tuesday, I'm going to Taipei because the phone is being released, and you can buy them now in Taiwan on April 8th. I'm very excited, and so this is the beginning. So it was pretty scary up to this point, but it looks like we may make it. So what is it that we have? So we primarily, it's a messenger system. It's a chat program. It's called the Omelette Chat. We don't monetize data. We let you keep your own data, and we let you build your social apps. So that's out, and it is available, and I encourage you to download it, and we can have a live demo. So you can download it from the Google App Store and the Apple App Store. It's not just a chat program, because it is actually a whole platform. It's an app platform. It is a very simplified picture here. What is on the phone is a semantic database. On top of that is Omelette Chat. And it has all the APIs that allow you to write apps on top. You can write web apps that can be viewed inside Omelette Chat. It can be a native app that uses the Omelette messaging service for social. And you can also write OEM apps. And you can also write server apps. So there are a lot of apps API available. And we run this messaging service. And at the bottom is also APIs for the cloud services, so you can plug in different clouds. So roughly, we are helping people with their data and with their apps. This is actually an operating system. Okay, so we call this a social OS. It's very much like a web OS. All right, a web OS is basically the browser, but you can download it and have it run on every single device, regardless of which operating system it is. So in that sense, this is a social OS, and we want it to be run on all the Android and the iPhone and eventually Windows phones and so forth. Today you can download it. Hopefully, eventually, everybody would just pre-install it on all the devices, and everybody can run social apps without having their data monetized. So that's the app, the chat, and the platform. What is the underlying technology? It is 2 things. It's identity-based group routing network. A lot of work has been done on content-based addressing. So this is one form of that. And then on top of it, it's a distributed semantic file system. Distributed because we are putting data in all the different clouds. It's a semantic file system because all the data are recalled based on what, when, how, who, where. It is not by file names because there are no file names on the phones. Okay? And you might have heard of distributed file systems and semantic file systems. This is kind of like it's like a lot of people have worked on it, and we have stopped working on distributed systems in the last N years. It is time for us to go back into the distributed games. Because on mobile devices, to support the scalability, I truly believe that we need the distributed systems again. So that's the technology, that's a high-level description. But that stuff doesn't matter unless you can appeal to the end users. Okay? So let's talk about the HCI side, the user side. Remember, we were saying we are three things: messaging, app platform, and social network. Let's start with the messaging. And the first thing we want to do is to have to win the chat battle. And it is really hard. WhatsApp has hundreds of millions of users. And by the way, WhatsApp more or less have lost their Chinese audience to WeChat within maybe a couple of years. Okay? So there's a lot of people fighting over these over this space, the proprietary space. But what we can do, what we are doing is an open system, and hopefully this can disrupt the proprietary fights, the battles that are going on. So let me show you what it means to win this battle. We have to make it even more fun than what is out there. How many people know about Line? Okay. We have a chance to take over here because you guys are not familiar with Line. But Line has a lot of cute stickers and stuff, and for them to express themselves. What we want to do is to do it the way that I think maybe the Americans and the Canadians, the North American and Europeans are more interested in is because it is more do-it-yourself. You don't just buy stickers and put it on. You can make your own stickers. So let me show you an example. This is a real-life situation. I was sitting there, and I was at the football game. And every single time we do a touchdown, this guy right here would get up, take off his shirt, and do a chest bump with a friend. Okay? That's what it is. And I've seen it enough times that I know it's going to happen, so I got my camera ready. So anyway, they did it, and we were doing great in that game. We have so many touchdowns. So I captured a picture, and I shared it with my team. They're working. It's on the weekend anyway. And after I shared it, Ben says, "Wow, that one doesn't even need stickers." And soon, like few minutes later, Ian sent this message. So Ian decides that these two guys are not nude enough, right? So they took a picture. They have a little tool on their phone, and then they made them more nude and send it to the group, and everybody likes it. And did you see the heart? The heart actually grows with the number of likes that people give. Okay, you can like it multiple times. So Ben likes it 4 times in this one. All right. So Ben decides to have a better idea. Okay. So they're just having fun. And so this girl here is a sticker that he puts on the picture, and then he puts in some words, and it's like a little something funny, and some people like this and so forth. And so this is supposed to be a GIF, but Keynote decides not to show GIF anymore, and I cannot show you exactly what happened. But anyways, everybody else saw it, and they gave it so many hearts, and I've got this largest heart. And I must say that, I kind of get the hang of it. It's like, it encourages you to have fun chatting with your friends, and you get more and more hearts, it makes you happy, and you do the same, you just keep doing it. It is not that different than me talking to you in person. If I don't see you nodding or being happy about what I'm saying, I keep thinking of things to engage you. So what we're doing with this chat is to make the chat as close to people chatting and having fun with each other as possible. I actually have a colleague. He's like a large company founder and so forth. And he told me that he has some colleagues he has a colleague in Japan. Every single time they meet up, they would joke with each other. But when they are on email, they are just all business as usual. It's like all very formal comments and statements. And when they are using Omelette, they're now having fun again because this is an environment that is closer to what they would be doing in person. So this is our chat program. The reason why we were able to do all these things really easily is because of this drawer of apps. Okay, this is an app drawer, and we wrote some, other people wrote some. It is totally open, and you can put whatever you want in it. So for example, an engineer was able to write a little app called Animotions. You can download it today on the App Store. And instead of having canned stickers, these are GIFs, if it moves, of himself expressing different kinds of emotions. So now you don't have to pay for the line stickers to say, oh my God, because now you have your own expression, and it is all much more creative. So that's just an example of one app, and there are many, many apps that you can build. And so now this is a system that can be extended by third parties. And we do not take a cut. We don't care. Just go ahead and build it. And if you put ads in, make your money, go ahead and do it. So that's the difference between an open and free platform versus the proprietary platform that asks for 30% of your revenues. We don't own this graph. We're just moving the data for you. Okay. So that's the messaging side. And I can assure you that we've been using it. I've been using it with my family of 20-some, and we are keeping up with each other on the phones. And I do it with my teams and I stopped writing as many emails for sure, because this is so much easier to keep up with the people that I care and talk to constantly. So I believe that with the messaging, it has nothing to do with just even this app, but what is going on is that messaging is replacing some of the communications inside email. You know how, I rarely read my physical mail these days. And email is getting to be the next level of the hierarchy. I will check my email maybe 2 times a day, as opposed to the messaging system that I will just keep looking at, because these are the groups that I'm working with. Okay, so that's messaging. And we say when we're doing social networking, how are we going to help people share photos, for example, which is one of the most important things on Facebook. All right. Have you been in situations like this before? Okay. It's like, could you take a picture of me? Could you take a picture of me? And all of a sudden you have 4 phones taking a picture, same picture of the 4 people. And if Facebook is doing so great, why do we still need to do that? Okay, so there is still room, all right? So here is the idea. What we have done is to take advantage of the phone, and we say, you can take a chat and you can broadcast it like here. So I have broadcasted a chat right there. Okay, if you guys download the software, you can absolutely just join in this chat without me knowing what your phone number is, what your Facebook account is. And now I go here, I click that, I take a picture of you. I just send it to you. Okay, you can just go get it. So in the same way, suppose I put my slides on this chat room, then you can go and download the slides if you want to. You don't have to send me email anymore, right? About this chat. So I can just give it to you virtually. Just give it to you from my phone to your phone. You can join the hotspot. So Ben and Kate, here's an example. So Ben and Kate, Ben is actually one of our co-founders, and he did get married, and we actually used this for this purpose. So at the wedding, we announced that there is this chat that is broadcasted, and anybody can join. So you can take a picture or 2, and then you let your friends take pictures, and at the end of that, you have collected an album that is built collaboratively. Usually at a wedding, 2 or 3 people like to take pictures. Let them. So they take a picture, and then on your phone, you've got the album. Everybody loves pictures in their albums because they know that that's with them. And this is why people hand over their phones to have somebody else take pictures of themselves. And they have to check also if the pictures are good. If it is not good, they want to take another picture. So here, you see it in real time, you check, it's like, oh, that's a good picture, and then you move on. So here is a collaborative photo album that is just the way, you know, in a sense, what mobile is supposed to be. But more importantly, the pictures are really put into the semantic database, semantic social network. Semantic file system. And that means that all the things are correlated. So for example, suppose I say to you, it's like, suppose I run into one of Ben's friends and I say, I want to show you the wedding picture. But I don't know where I put it. But I remember, you know, Kate's the bride. I remember her, you know, I said, I know Kate. So let me look up Kate. And under Kate, I can see all the events that I am in with her. And from there, I can click and I can go to the event, and from the event, I can get to the photo album. Okay. Now I can recall things based on all the different kinds of information, like who, what, where, and when. Another thing that happens is, like, because I've been using this, if you look at my contact list, it's huge, because at every event, I invite people to join me. And most of the time, I didn't even know who, I didn't talk to you one-on-one. Say 10 years later, suppose I run into you again at another event, and then you show up and it says, oh, there was another event I was in with you. Okay, you were at the UBC talk. Now I don't have to forget a face. Okay, this is what phones mean, right? Because now the phone is an extension of myself. It will remember for me every face that I see in a much better way. Okay, so now we are talking about people, photos, things, and it is all connected. So this is the distributed semantic file system. We're just seeing the rudimentary version of this. So I showed you the photo album, which is a collaborative photo album. And here is an example of what an OEM and what a device manufacturer can do. This is why we have a partner with ASUS. They didn't just put the omelet chat in it. They built an app on top of it. And the app is the social gallery app. What it means is, like, instead of a camera roll full of pictures that I took, these are now events. This is Ben and Kate's wedding, for example, of pictures that all my friends took. It is very, very different from the Facebook style of social, which is that we all go to Ben's wedding and we all individually put up pictures of Ben's wedding. But this is a collaborative photo album that was created, and now all the pictures are coherent. So it shows up, for example, as an album, and you see the people in it, you see the photos. When you click into it, you see the pictures from all the different, that are contributed by different people. You look at the picture, and then you can say, oh, I like this picture. You can heart the picture. You can start commenting on these pictures. And now you're doing social directly on the native gallery of the phone. So it is now popping out of the chats. It's no longer just a chat. Now the gallery is natively social. And our dream here is that every single app on your phone will be social in a way, that nobody is reading your data and monitoring what you're doing. Everything should be social based, but because they were built using the APIs available on the phone. So we used this at the conference where people share comments. We used it at the nightclub where the DJs took pictures of the people at the dance floor, and they got requests and so forth. This is what we did at South by. It was pretty cool. So those are the two ways that we do some work, help people share. And now let's talk about the app platform. That is really the most important part. And what we have created basically is a new social browser. I kind of hinted at that already when we look at the example of the Scrabble game. So if you download the app, you will see that there are a lot of apps in there. One of them is called Snap. What Snap does is that it takes a picture and destroys the picture within a few seconds. Have you seen this before? Right? It was done by a high school student in 2 days. Okay? But at the same time, Snapchat is valued at $4 billion. What does that tell you? What it tells us is that the system is very inefficient. Okay? For me to be able to share a picture that self-destructs in 2 days, it should take that self-destructs in 10 seconds, should take about 2 days by a high school student. But no, but everybody is replicating the work, building a network, the servers, and collecting people's names and so forth. And now we get into a situation where everything is like billions of dollars. But here, we're a browser. You can write apps. So here's just some examples of apps. This is a little polling app. If you download the app, it's in there. So suppose you know how often you have a group of people and you're talking about which place you want to go for lunch? And here, you can just put the poll up there, and everybody says, I want to go here and there, and then you get the result of the poll. It is just a bunch of web pages using the messaging system. You can do the same thing for invitations. Why do I need a company called Evite just to collect email, the invitations? What about WebEx? What is the idea behind WebEx? I have to give up the slides for Cisco so that they can read the data and then share it for us. Why? I mean, this is all corporate information that is very important to keep confidential. And here, imagine that you have an iPad, you've got your presentation, and you just share it with the chat, and you just write a little bit of code so that every time I flip the slide, my friend's phone will also advance the slide. And now we have WebEx. Okay, now you are sharing a remote slide, remote talk. Here's another example. How many people have played 2048? Don't try it. It's very, very addictive. Okay. So one of the people working for us, she's not even technical. She discovered this game. She loves this game. And she says, I want to share this high score of this game. And she asked us to help her, to teach her how to how to have the ability to share the score and invite other people to join and beat the score. All right. So this is an example of how lightweight it can become and how interesting it is for young people to get in. This is something you can hook students into doing computer science. And as a matter of fact, we have tried it out. In 2012, I have seven interns and 2 freshmen. In 6 weeks, they built 5 multi-party games. They basically taught themselves JavaScript, HTML5, and they built 5 really fun, really interesting games. They are so creative. They came up with all these different ideas. And the one I really like is this one, the nose game. You know what the nose game is? Who wants to go buy beer? Uh-oh. Somebody is going to buy beer. So the idea is like the last person who puts their finger to the nose has to go buy beer. So what the 2 high school girls did is that they put a nose on the feed, and then you have to touch it, and the last one, loses. All right? It is a very simple thing to write in our system. But can you imagine an iPhone app that plays the nose game? How many billions would that go for? Whoops. But how do I tell you? Please download that nose game because I'm going to send you a nose. So what is going on here is that these things have to be very frictionless. And we have the phones, we have the connections, and you should be able to write tiny little apps for each other. Just like you can download and view a web page it should be as easy as viewing a web page. And the work involved should be as easy as writing web apps or writing web pages. And when that happens, you have a totally different way of doing social on mobile devices and doing collaboration on devices. The nose game is an example of a collaboration. You know how enterprise software is really painful to use and people will live with it? But when it's something like a nose game, you have to make it so frictionless. You have to make it frictionless. That's the key. And if it is not frictionless, nobody will use it. It is actually hard to build a nose game using existing technologies. Okay, so just imagine what the high school kids can do. Here's another app that I think that you might like. It is the Git chat app. So what happened is in about 2 days' time, an engineer hooked up the Git commits into a chat. So a software engineering team can see the commits coming in real time. You know what that does to the team? You can imagine, all right? What it means is like, number one, people start putting comments into the commits. Because before, they check in, they check out, they never look at the comments. But now, it's a message that everybody sees. So they put in comments. So this helps because now you're knowing what everybody is doing. So if I put in a good trick, somebody is going to learn about it. Second, it's in real time. So what a software engineer really hates is that they work really hard and nobody acknowledges it. Okay? Here, you check in the piece of code at 3 a.m. in the morning, and the next day you get all the people saying, I heart it. You put in all the hearts. You remember those 100 hearts? Now you can heart people's commits. Okay? Not just silly pictures. All right? It just changes. Now you're talking about social applied to coding. When they say social coding, I mean, this is what it means. So you congratulate each other for solving a bug that nobody else has been able to do, and so forth. The manager loves it because unfortunately, I don't get to code at all. But now I'm seeing what they are doing. I know what the problems they are struggling with. We have meetings, we know what people are supposed to do, and you see the check-ins on a daily basis. Who is working, what is going on, and there are discussions that come out of that, and so that's just an example. How many people here uses GitHub? You need to download this and give it a try and give me comments back. All right? This is truly useful. It changes our group experience. So here's another example that is very cool. So we worked with a developer, and he has this app to make music of some kind. I can't disclose this today. It's not public. So the concept is that Anne here makes a song on his... So this is a single-person game, a single-person music creator, in a sense. So what they did is to add in a couple of API so that the song, the information, is available and sent to the chat using JSON. Okay, so now it is all programmable data structures. And so Anne sends it to the chat, our system transports it over to Bob, and Bob's information is then, he clicks it, and he goes in, and then it launches the song, and now he is playing Anne's song. Okay? So now we have just turned this single-person app into a multiplayer app, all in one afternoon by putting 2 calls into the system. Okay? So now you're talking about basically, all we're doing is a giant common sub-expression elimination. We took all the work that everybody is doing, we put it in one place because we don't sell people data, we don't look at people's data. Feel free to use it. You can use it for fun, for business, for health, for collaboration and work. And it just makes it much more efficient. Now we have a very efficient system for creating social stuff. And the information is now you don't actually have to necessarily launch through the chat because the information is now available on the music app, and you can see all the songs that different people have put in. And now you have a truly social interaction without building any server. And what that means also is that that app has no way of stealing a single piece of personal information because it does not even have a server. So this is just a totally different way of encouraging people to build apps that are meaningful, and you don't have to worry about the work of making it social, nor do the users have to worry about losing their personal information. This is pretty much the opposite of how we are doing it on Facebook, because there are a lot of pointless apps. All they're doing, like the quizzes and stuff, is just to collect users' information. Okay? There is nothing of value in those quizzes. Okay, the hardest question is, okay, you've got the picture, you've got the apps, how do you go to market? I didn't know that term before I started companies, and I realized how hard that is, how important that is after the second company. So the first thing you have to do is to educate people about a programmable open mobile internet. So we have to have a launch and tell people about it. We did a pretty good job at South by. We got a lot of press. These are some stories, and we are expecting a couple of more in-depth stories coming up. And people are paying attention, I think. So that's one thing we do is visibility. The second thing that we care about is to go through schools. And so we are very, very happy that, I mentioned this already, that the registrar is putting us into the iStanford app. So Stanford has an arrangement with Box to give every student and staff 25 gigabytes free. Okay? And it turns out that that arrangement has been replicated there are 70 other universities. These are all universities in the Internet 2 initiative, the Internet 2 consortium, and there are potentially 200 universities that have this kind of arrangement. And what it means is that the students do have already free storage that can host their social data. But Dropbox, these are backup storages. People don't really care that much. But what we have done using the Omelette interface is that we turn them into social data repositories. Okay? And you drive a lot more data into these cloud services because it is not pictures that I took, it is the pictures my friends took. It's an order of magnitude more data that will be going into these repositories. And now we are distributing the data that normally goes sit in Facebook in these repositories. So schools is another area. And finally, we already mentioned it, we are very excited that we are going on the phones. And the reason why we were able to get the OEMs excited is because it is an innovation platform. They see it as a way to differentiate against other Android phones, because all Android phones are about the same. But now, here is a phone that has social baked in with good privacy policies. So in summary here is like, first of all, we want to educate, tell people about the PAMI campaign. It's very important to get students, to get university adoption. And it is not just the registrar doing the work, it has to be the people. And one theory that I have is maybe the computer science students can help lead. Because this is so early, it is hard for you to look at it and say, where is everything? It's like, it is still like very young, but the computer science students know what they can build, what they can see in the future. So that's one thing that I would like to hear if it's something that I can see this community helping with. And then of course, the other thing is that our goal here is to have it be distributed on all Android devices. Okay, that would be wonderful. But we now have one OEM partners, and we will have more to announce. And maybe we're working with other OEM partners at this point. So in summary here is like, we are distributing the computing, and we're building a new ecosystem. It is not just Facebook owning everybody's data and taking their billions of dollars that they have to buy more companies to grow their empire bigger. So what we have is like we are a neutral company that is spun out of Stanford. It doesn't belong to any large companies. And as a neutral company, we were able to bring, for example, the different device manufacturers together. We're not aligned with one of them. We have a common standard that they can, if they adopt it, they have interoperability across the different companies. Same thing, we provide an interface to the apps. We have a common interface so that the cloud services are participating in hosting social data. And then also we want to get the communities involved, and universities is one place. The registrar is interested in that is because they really, it doesn't make sense for the universities to promote a company like Facebook, which means that like even the homework, the results that they produce together, the intellectual property, would belong to a proprietary social network. That is not something a university should do. And this is why they were very excited that we have actually a real alternative that is also fun. So what we are talking about here is a new ecosystem that is based on a universal messaging designed with fun in mind and promises no data monetization. Well, thank you for your attention. And maybe I have time to take a couple of questions.
So maybe, I've been away from Stanford too long, and this is the sort of question you're not supposed to ask down there, because you're supposed to just change the world and not worry about how to monetize this. But the question is, well, like your whole pitch is about we're not going to monetize your data, and you've done a startup. You're not just doing some nonprofit consortium, right? What's the hook?
So that's a very good question, okay? First of all, we believe that by not monetizing data, we can be the biggest messaging service, right? And we have been working with this distributed systems for so long. We know that there are many tools that many services that we can offer that people will pay for. Okay, so let me give you 2 examples. I can sell stickers. Okay, Line apparently made like millions and millions of dollars a month selling stickers. And this doesn't sell any data, you know, and if you want to pay, that's fine. So that's one source of revenue, quick revenue. Another example is like what Mozilla does. So how does Mozilla make their money? It's the Google search bar. You can use any search engine that you want, but there is a default. And for that, Google pays dearly for that default. It was like $300 million a year. So I believe that I will be fine. And one of the things that we can offer is a default cloud service. Because it is good for everybody to have a default cloud service. I'm not taking anything away. And the default wins in many cases. If you don't care, just have the default. And so for that purpose, we hope that some company will pay us for that purpose. Okay. So, and then on top of that, there are many, many, many services that I already know about potentially developing as, you know, if this takes off. Yes.
Openness has been a big theme here.
Yes.
But I Googled around and was unable to find the source code for Omelette. Is it open source or not?
It is not open source.
Why is it not open source?
Why is it not open source? Do you know what can happen if I open source it today? Facebook can just take this and offer it and put their hundreds of millions of users on it today.
What if you're releasing under a license that does not allow people to redistribute it?
Then why am I open sourcing it? So that's one reason, okay? I mean, I talk to a lot of students about this until I showed them. It's like, you have a business. When you have a business, you have to have something, right? I'm already late in the game when it comes to the hundreds of millions of users that Facebook have. I don't really see how this helps. It can potentially really hurt you, okay? Now,
user trust.
If I see what people are doing with Facebook, I don't think it is really important. Because a lot of people do not trust Facebook, they are still using it. So we just have to focus on and the second reason is that the software is too early to open source. We are making changes really quickly, and also the last thing I want is for that to fragment. Okay? Then you don't have critical mass ever. And that is huge. So those are the 3 reasons. You have a question? Okay.
So you mentioned privacy of data and information and user license agreements. So whenever we download any app from the App Store, we sign all this licensing agreement that we give the rights to the app to access our camera, memory, contacts, everything. So basically, any app writer has all access to all my information that is not even relevant to the app necessarily. How does that installing more apps protect my privacy on the mobile?
So in our case, it is really our business model that prevents us from selling your data and doing anything with the data. It's a little bit like Salesforce.com, right? Salesforce.com hosts a lot of very, very important data from every company. And the minute that they sell one person's data in any way or disclose that information, that company has no value. All right? So this is what we are building this company based on. On the other hand, Google promises to read your data. And Facebook promises to give you personalized ads. And you don't have to wonder if they are doing anything about your data. Okay? So those are 2 different, it's the business models that make a big difference. If you want to have fun with your app, you have to let people look at, get access to your camera and stuff like that. But I don't believe that the only way to build a business is to build it to monetize users' data. Yeah.
So some of us like to pretend to control what the NSA, for example, knows about us. And so if I put something on the UBC chat and it goes to you, and then you put it on your Box account, and all of a sudden the Box knows about it, the NSA knows about it. So where is the privacy
Okay.
guarantee that you're...
So first of all, you're the one who picked Box.
No, I didn't pick Box. I put it on...
No. I don't put anything into anybody unless you pick. So each person picks their own account. If you put up a home server.
I put it on the UBC chat, and it goes onto your thing. You part of the UBC chat. So then it goes
Okay.
to you server
Well,
Box.
it's a little bit like if I give you a picture, if you put it on the billboard, what can I do? I mean, but the worst part is a third party that sits in between the communication and give that data away. If I own it and then I put it up, then there is very little you can do. If you don't trust me, don't send it to me. So let's talk about the second stage, which is the Box and Dropbox. Box and Dropbox are freemium models. They don't sell data. Okay. Now, what can NSA do? One thing that we avoid is for NSA to come to me and say, I want the history of this person in the last 10 years. I said, I don't have it. Okay, I have the 2 weeks. You can monitor the next 2 weeks, or monitor the conversation, which you need to do because of pornography and child pornography and so forth. Okay, you have to help the law enforcement people. But I don't have the large amount of data that you can now come to me for. And if you want to, if they have to individually go to Box and Dropbox, now we have at least given people choice, and you can do whichever way you want it. You can even have an encrypted storage service that you use. And so there's a very big difference between a free service that promises to read the data. And by the way, if you use Gmail, the data belongs to Google, and Google has to give it to the government when they ask for it. And this is why if a reporter uses Gmail for communication with their informants, that data is not protected, even though they have the law to protect them, because the data belongs to Google. So that's the difference. Because with Box, Box does not own your data anyway. So because it's a paid service. Yes?
So first, I'd like to thank you so much for your passionate and excellent presentation. So currently I have two questions. The first one is that I noticed that many professors in Stanford have already initiated many startups,
Yes.
such as Android and Sebastian Strand. They started online courses, and how to balance the academic work and the startups. And I think the second question is that how to make sure not to use the national fund or grant for just the short-term personal profits. Because I think many national many national funds are used for the long-term science and technology development rather than just short-term
Yes.
profits. Yeah.
So let's take a look at what we are doing. The government funded our project because it's an important project for social good. And if we don't do it in a university, I don't see any large company doing this, and I don't see any startups trying to attempt this. They would be bankrupted 3 times over. Okay, so it is important for us to pick topics that warrant the research, that it has research value. I mean, what we have picked is a problem too hard for any startup to do. As a matter of fact, I would advise anybody here who wants to do startups in the universities, don't think that way, because you will lose. Even if you're just trying to do a startup, if you try to say, oh, I can make a startup doing X and I'm going to do it in university, you will lose because you are too slow compared to a startup for real. Okay, so universities may spin out startups, but do not plan or design your research just to create a startup. Right? So we're doing a lot of disruptive work, and if we succeed, the government loves it if you take it to market. The university loves it if you convert that into value for the society. So there is no conflict in that sense. So I took 2 years, I took 1.5 years off on my sabbatical, on my leave, in order to do the startup. So by the time we see that we finished the research, I took a leave from Stanford to start this company. So I wasn't doing anything that could be done that should be done by a startup inside a university. We are very, very careful about conflict of interest. I want to do one thing before I answer more questions, and that is that, I'm wondering if you guys, one of my premise here is that I think that the computer science departments can help create awareness and produce software and stuff like that. And I just wanted to see if people are interested. If you're interested to learn more about us, please sign up, and I'm just collecting supporters in a sense, all right? And this will give me an indication of whether this might work or not work. Right? So I have more pieces of paper.
Technology standing back there.
I know, because I know that people are they're paying attention to my talk so much that they didn't download the software. Because anybody who has, maybe we can just distribute it.
We don't have pens.
You don't have pens? Hi. Okay, so then just download the software or maybe, I'm also wondering if I can have maybe two students who are interested in helping me collect people's names and stuff like that, and for people who don't have pens. I have 2 t-shirts. I have 2 t-shirts to hand out to people who can help me with. They're extra cute.
Yeah.
You have to give me your names. All right, thank you. Any more questions? I saw some questions, yes.
Yeah, and I was wondering, are you concerned that you might be at some sort of competitive disadvantage because you're not leveraging the data? Companies like Facebook and Twitter are leveraging data to a huge extent to provide a better user experience. I go to the news feed and I see what I would be interested in based on what I've clicked on before.
Very good question.
If you're not doing that as
very good question.
Disadvantage.
The problem is that if I wanted to just monetize data, it's too late. I'm too small, too late. Even if I want to make money that way, you can't do this anymore. It's a little bit like Windows versus Linux. How do you create yet another proprietary operating system after Windows has one? All right. But Linux has a shot because it is open. And so we are turning the strength, the weakness into the strength. This is what we consider to be a weakness. You don't have data. But I actually believe that data are a liability. You know why Google is not inside China? Right? Google is not in China because Google has a lot of, because if they're inside China, then they will have a lot of data of the Chinese citizens. And then the Chinese government, they know that the Chinese government will go to Google and ask for that data. And because of the human rights issues and so forth, that's what Google says, that they do not want to be inside China. But this is because the data belongs, they would have a lot of Chinese citizens' data. And I personally feel that it is not right for any country to give up their data to any company belonging to a foreign government. And I think that Europe has just woken up to that as well. And the Europeans are saying, I don't want the data sitting on Facebook and Google and letting US government read all over it. This is the Snowden problem. And I believe that what we are doing is the next phase, where we let all the different countries, the citizens of different countries, to choose the storage of their choice. Maybe it is a local data storage and so forth. And by doing so, we believe that we can be the biggest company, even providing the messaging service. And then on top of that, you can make a big business out of it. You just cannot keep doing what everybody else is already doing, because that's not what startups are good at. It's a very good question. Thank you. Yes.
Normally use of monopolies and the problems of monopolies. I was wondering, do you have any safeguards in place for stopping you from becoming a monopoly?
I can't hear the last sentence.
Do you have any safeguards in place for stopping your company from becoming a monopoly in this new space?
I'm like 20 years from here. So the most important thing is that we're distributing the data where it goes, right? I mean, the first thing we want to do is to distribute the data, because I believe that that's the most valuable thing. And the rest of it, I mean, I am happy to work with all the carriers and have it all be implemented in the infrastructure, okay? But I have to wait. Another thing that is interesting is that since we launched, I have been receiving support from all over the place. There are organizations that tell me, it's like, I am interested in using something, but I don't want to be on Facebook. I mean, and I have individuals saying that I don't like the way things are going, and I will help you for free. You know, I will volunteer my time. I do this for the daytime, but at night I'm going to help you with this. And there is just a lot of, I mean, the problem that we are fighting is so large that we are, you know, it is a non-trivial task. But the most important thing is to give the data back to their rightful owners. And we believe that when that happens, then you have even more social interactions than ever before. Okay? Just think about businesses and their customers, doctors and their patients, teachers and their students, and fellow colleagues and so forth. There's a lot of distributed software to be written, and this is why I'm so excited to be here talking to CS people.
I really like the idea you have on having this kind of an open platform. I was wondering if you could touch upon some of the technical challenges that you've had in building a much finer-grained sharing on top of things like these storage providers typically give you a much coarser file-level sort of store, and when you wanted to find comments or how you can revoke permissions if you're no longer friends with someone who you know, those kind of problems that you have in the sort of distributed model.
So it's very interesting because the kind of questions that you raise are the typical questions that a distributed system talk will talk about. But in our case, you know, that's the difference between solving a billion people privacy problem and a smaller number of privacy problems for people who really need the privacy. So give you an example. Today in the UBC chat, anybody can delete anybody's data from the chat. And that's it. Okay? I don't have a super administrator. Anybody can add people, anybody can delete people. And that means that I haven't done any of those hard work. Okay? However, with that principle, we have eliminated cyberbullying. Okay? You don't like a message, you get rid of it. How can you bully people? Because it will be removed. Okay?
Deleting all the messages.
Well, it is different from, I mean, you don't have to, yeah, I mean, if you, but you know, cyberbullying has a much worse effect than having just their messages deleted. Because you are saying very hurtful things, and we have seen suicides, we have seen issues with people making fun of their fellow students and stuff like that. So deleting is a simple way of solving, of eliminating a different problem. Now, you can start a new chat and you don't have to include the people who have been deleting your messages because it's all up to you. So that's just a simple, we bypass a lot of those issues by choosing things to be extremely simple, because the reason why Facebook wins is it's so simple. You just broadcast everybody to anybody. You don't have to create the circles and control the permissions. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that you don't want to have things built on top of it that have better properties. Let me give you one technical challenge that we had. It's another one of these trade-offs. At Stanford, we built an end-to-end encrypted system. We used identity-based encryption. It was really, really nifty crypto technology. You don't have to exchange public keys, and it works pretty well. We were very excited about it, except that it doesn't work on the iPhones because I don't have background services. And then you get a message that says, somebody sent you something. Would you like to click on it? And then you click on it, you wait and wait and wait, and you see some silly picture of some kind. And at some point, you may have people who are contacting you that you don't care about. And I cannot do any whitelisting. We don't do anything for you. So in the end, we decided that we just got rid of end-to-end encryption. It is a compromise. So we encrypt online, but we don't, and we encrypt the data at rest. But we actually see the data. unfortunately. However, it doesn't stop you from building an app on top of it that has better encryption policies. And we already have some, my colleague Dan Bonet has some really nifty ideas about how you can build encrypted systems on top of that. Now, what we have done is just to lay down the basic foundation on which you can add encryption, different policies of creating groups, control the permissions, consistency. So for example, multi-party games that we have are very, very simple. We know how to do turn-based games. But how do you make things that are consistent, make it more real time? And we're just leaving it all up to everybody else to solve. I think we have taken enough time. All right, thank